Somatic Yoga. We're approaching the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. And winter is a time to slow down. So the theme today is to work in a really slow, gentle way. I don't know about you, but I'm just feeling the need to sleep more and eat soups and sit in front of a fire and just cozy up and just get like hibernate. Winter is about a little bit of hibernation, and it's, what they do in nature and what we should be doing as well. So we will move our body, but imagine that you're moving like through mud today, like warm mud. All the movements are kind of slow and smooth. So just do these slow, smooth, subtle movements, just getting your joints to kind of warm up in a very slow way. If you're adding in a specific breath, which you don't have to, you can just do a natural breath. In general, you would breathe on the exertion part, so that would be up, and then exhale on the relaxing part. So a slight exertion on the inhale, relax. And then let's just change this. Let's go forward and then go around. And then just feel what you're starting to wake up, maybe your shoulders. You can see that I'm not stretching my arms completely out. Keep the elbows bent. Keep your breath slow and smooth. And just notice the waking up of everything. See if you can get some air to fill those lungs. If you're not able to breathe through your nose, obviously you can breathe through your mouth. You just don't want to get in the habit of doing that because mouth breathing can dry out your mouth really badly and decay your teeth and other issues. Go ahead, if you don't mind, take the hands on the back body. And this again is very slow movement. I want you to kind of jut the butt out a little bit, feel that movement, and then bring it back in a little bit. Don't do this big. Do it smaller than your body is capable, but really sense the gentle rocking. We do this a lot on the ground as well. And this rocking action, even though it's so small, it's quite profound in terms of both bringing blood and lymph to areas that normally get very sticky, but also in signaling to your nervous system safe movement. Okay, now take the hands on the thighs and we'll go maybe a little deeper into this. So now we're kind of doing a little more of getting the upper body to work with the lower body. And I'm doing this first in more of a traditional cat-cow style where the head doesn't work opposite. But then if you want to try the somatic style of doing this, when you tuck your belly in, you would draw your chin slightly up. When you let your belly go down and activate the back body, you would draw your chin down. So this is more of the red light, green light. And then depending on where you are in forward folds, some of you don't like forward folds. And if you don't like a forward fold, you want to do your forward fold only to the chair. If you're okay with doing a full forward fold, the safest way to get into a forward fold, if you have any back issues, is to draw the belly toward the legs first. And then you could stop here, or you could go to blocks or all the way to the ground. Now, once you get down here, Some of you might be able to start to lengthen your legs. I can't anymore. It's too much, especially this early. So come on up safely by placing hands back on thighs, and imagine that your hips are hinges, not rounding up, using the hinge of the hips to come up safely. Okay, shake that out. Now let's do a little opening of hips. And again, the one that I'm showing is one that by itself you could do if you are seated a lot and just start to feel this band really tighten up, or your legs start feeling really exhausted around the top of the legs. And the idea is to contract first. So instead of just coming out of your chair and trying to do something like this and stretch it, contract that muscle first and then lengthen it behind. Contract it, shorten it, and you could shorten the whole body if you wanted to, really leaning over so you feel the contraction, and then you're lengthening it. You're contracting it and then extending it out. That is one of the really big concepts in somatic yoga, which comes really from physical therapy, if you think about it. In physical therapy, they don't just tell you to stretch. You're contracting the muscle and then you're lengthening it. Contract it and lengthen. Keep moving through mud. Do it slowly. You could even go slower than I'm going. And contract and lengthen. The other thing which is nice to do is to work the hip in this rotation, which we do a lot on the ground, but a nice way you could do it standing. Again, this is something you could do in the middle of the day if you just need to get off your chair. You would take your toes first and cross your body, and then come back, and then here, and come back, here, come back. Even go slower than I'm going. Here and back, cross behind you and back. So you see, I'm working the hip in many different angles. And then after you did this kind of touching, you could then maybe circle slowly around and just notice, like mine hitches about there. So be careful when you get to a spot that's hitching and then circling it around. So you're almost like drawing a full circle, but you don't quite make the circle. And then go ahead and let's switch and do the other side. So I think I did that same leg. Contract, release, contract, really, bend over, release it to a full extension, contract it slowly, let it go slowly, contract it, feel all this tuck in, and then let it extend. So you should feel the working of these muscles here. Okay, so now we can do the very slow touch across your body. So that's internal rotation. A little bit of external rotation. A little bit behind you, a little further, and then maybe crossing behind you. Again, be careful with this one. Slowly, don't go full range of motion for yourself. You're just trying to lubricate these hips. And then if you want to do a continuous circle, see how that feels. Now, watch that you're not turning your other knee into like a stick. Keep a slight bend in the knee and activate the thigh to help you. So again, it's not like this really tight, sticky thing over there. Okay, go ahead and well, why don't you walk around the room for a little bit and see if you just feel like you have a little more movement in your body. A slow way to wake up and warm things up. And then if you have an available wall, let's come to the available wall. This is something I've been doing lately because I just love the feedback of the wall against my body in a little bit of a squat. I mean, tiny squat. So just stand here and see what feels like it's touching the back of the wall. So just notice if one side is touching more than the other. Notice where you're sensing. Slow your breathing down. So if your wall allows you to do, if you have enough of a wall, it would be nice to try doing the Warrior 2 series with the wall behind you. So I'm going to stand against the wall and my front toes, so for me it's my left, so for you would be your right, are going parallel to the wall. And then the heel of my back foot is touching the wall. And I'm trying to keep my shoulders back on the wall, maybe bending a little bit, and then reaching out, and then releasing. This is a good way to gently cajole your body into just a little more openness. And you can see I'm not doing a big version of this. I'm doing kind of a gentle version. And I'm releasing each time. Go back in and release. Now let's try keeping that front knee bent and leaning down toward it. So I'm still trying to get both shoulders back on the wall. Going back down a little bit. And maybe you're putting your hand on the waist. Maybe it's here on the shoulder. Maybe some of you are drawing it up. But whichever one you're doing, don't stay in the forceful part a long time. Just move gently in and out of it. And then come up. Now, keeping the wall behind you, if you're able from here to do a full forward fold, go ahead. If not, grab your chair again to lean to the chair. So I'm trying to use the wall, and then I'm going down into either leaning on the chair or leaning here. Wide-legged forward folds are really the safest forward fold for somebody who has low back issues that could be related to hips and tight hamstrings. So this is almost, I'm doing this almost as a wide-legged downward dog rather than a rounded forward fold. So if you can think about that, that you're lengthening your spine more than rounding it. And breathing. All right. A little tricky getting up with the wall behind you. Be careful to come back up. And then let's do the other side. So we have one foot that is parallel to the wall. The other foot, you're trying to get your heel on the wall. And you're trying to draw your shoulders back toward the wall. And just bend and straighten in a warrior 2 a few times. Feeling like the wall is giving you feedback and also supporting you, opening up your rib cage and chest, which is very needed during the winter, particularly with respiratory things. I'm not doing a very big warrior two. It's a pretty small one. So now if you can, keep that front knee bent and start to lean toward that front leg, making sure as much as possible you're keeping the back shoulder close to a wall. And depending on what's going on with you, you could take your hand and place it on the shoulder. Some of you might be drawing that arm over. On this side, my body is telling me to keep that hand on the waist. All right, very gently come back up and either do one last dog or wide-legged. I'm going to show you just from the side. So I want you to imagine that my back of my legs are leaning toward the wall, and I'm literally pushing my butt against the wall, and you're either putting your hands here on the chair. So again, it's more of a wide-legged dog than a forward fold. There should be no rounding in the back, and if you were doing it toward the floor, so you feel the length. And you're softening and breathing, and then very gently, very carefully making your way up. And let's one more time do a wall sit before we leave our standing postures today. Although I do want to do a balance, so hang in there and do a balance with me too. So, wall sit. How are you feeling? Does anything feel differently? It's particularly because things might be touching the wall a little easier now that we have worked with the wall, and then come up. Okay, so we are going to be doing some eagle arms on the ground today. But for some people that have shoulder discomfort, instead of doing eagle arms, you're going to do a bear hug. So start with a bear hug when we're doing this balance. And if your shoulders allow, you'll work into eagle arms, but we'll see. We'll see how your shoulders are. So the way I get into an eagle balance is sometimes I just do it like this, with one leg is up on a block and one leg is down. That's already a balance. So if your right leg is up, then your right arm is going to be going under. So you could start like this, and then if you wanted to, you could try to cross this leg over or not. Okay? You could leave it on the block the whole time. If you're doing the full eagle arms, you're going a little bit beyond this with the right arm under, and you might be touching back of hands or grabbing wrists or grabbing hands. That's a lot for people's shoulders, and particularly early in a class. So you decide what's appropriate. And if you want to try to do this as a balance, you could cross your leg over and breathe. So if you're going to try the other side, you would take the other foot and place it on the block, and it could just be here. You're already balancing. So now I have my left leg up, which means my left arm is going under. So either I'm doing the bear hug or backs of hands or fronts of hands. And I'm seeing what happens if I try to take that leg off the block. Now this could be done against a wall for security and balance, leaning against the wall. So you'd be right up against that wall. And then you would release it and shake it out. So before we leave standing up, let's go ahead and lift our shoulders with some effort, draw them back with some effort, soften them down. All right, so the rest of our class is going to be on the ground in some fashion, or on your sofa or your bed, wherever you do your lying down and seated postures. My suggestion is if you're going to use a chair, you could use a chair for a couple of the seated ones, including the mudra, but then after that, we are going to be prone. And if you want to set up for all the prone postures now, go ahead and spread your blanket completely over the mat. Have bolster blocks and strap nearby in case you decide to use it. Okay. Now, if you're a person who likes to sit a little bit on the knees, this twisting series can be done on the knees, and I will show you that. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it because my knees have never been super happy like this. But you could sit up in somewhat a form like this to do this twisting series if that is interesting to you. Now, if you're going to do the twisting series up like this, you're going to need a block behind your back to twist to. And again, this can be done in a regular cross-legged seated position or in the mermaid or deer position. But this is something my teacher did with us this weekend, and I thought, well, let's give it a try and see if I can do it. So if I'm twisting that way, and that would be towards your right, I'm going to make sure my hand can touch that block. I'm going to lift up the other arm and twist. Now, if you're sitting in cross-legged, you can still do this. This is just a slightly different feel to this. And then coming on back, and then trying it to the other side. If you're up, I'm not going to be able to stay here very long but I think it was interesting. So arm is up, I'm twisting, I'm reaching behind me. It does get into the upper body a little bit more, and you keep your hips relatively stable. So it's an interesting, different feel. Okay, that's enough for me of being seated like that. I know some of you like that seated, but not so much me. Okay. Back to my favorite seated position, cross-leg. All right, so let's grab the strap, if you don't mind, and we'll do some breathing into our chest area in order to open our lungs a little bit more for those of you who have some respiratory things going on. So the thing is going to go across your chest. It's probably easier to just put it around the chest first and then tie it in a way that gives you feedback but not pain. And it's under the breast, but you're still feeling the rib cage. And just make sure that if you have a buckle, that it's not hurting your body, that it's not touching you in a way that's hurting. And if you also can, try to have the strap as flat as possible. Okay. All right. All right. So for your first maybe 5 breaths. Just breathe in, without any control at all. Just let your natural breath occur. And notice. The feedback helps you diagnose if you're more of a left side or right side breather. So if you are favoring one side or the other, or if you're breathing more to the front versus the back. So once you figure out where your breath is stronger and weaker, now maybe for the next couple rounds, direct your breath to those areas where you feel like you're not filling up as much. So this is an intentional breath. Do it slow and soft. Don't force it but almost imagine you're blowing up a balloon in an area of your body that maybe could use a little more space. Breath is space making. So now go back to a normal breath and maybe see if your normal breath feels a little more evenly distributed. Sometimes just a few intentional efforts in an area that you're maybe not aware of normally can help bring some balance to a system. All right, go ahead and release that. We'll do just a few things on our belly. We'll get on our back, and I think then today we'll end with our mudra practice. So remove the strap, find your way on the belly. If you need an extra padding to lay on your belly, go ahead and add that. Move things out of your way. Just going to do a little bit of rising up and letting down in a cobra style position. And you can determine whether you there's like 3 things you could do with your arms. You could cross them and just come up and down like this slowly. You could stretch the hands out. The elbows could be further away or closer to your body. The further away they are, the more gentle this is. The closer to the body, the more back bend. And if you have a tendency to pinch down here, you may want to actively engage muscles of your core as well as your legs. So we're just going to move up and down in whatever one you like. If you want to, each time you come down, you could lay a different cheek. So let's again do this slowly. Coordinating with breath. And if you want to, you could explore all 3 of these. See how slow you can move. Feel like you're moving against mud, warm mud. Sometimes when your body gets a little more used to this, you are able to go a little deeper, a little more vigorous into it. And if you want to, at some point, you could hold it and explore what holding it feels like. See where you're putting the effort. See if it's all concentrated in one area and you can distribute it. See if you can keep tension out of your neck in particular. A lot of us tend to tense up our necks when we do this. Keep the neck soft. Keep the effort up and down the back spine, visualizing that you're strengthening that area. And then when you've had enough, go ahead and release the hips by allowing one hip at a time to gently come off your surface, and then maybe bending the knees a little bit and going side to side. So we're going to build a somatic sequence on our back that's going to involve those eagle arms. But before we do the eagle arms, I'm going to show you what we're going to do. So I'm going to sit up initially to show you, so you don't have to strain, but you make your way onto your backs, and you can bend your knees and place your feet on the ground and check in for a moment. And coming to your backs, you can do it maybe through a child's pose or a puppy pose. All right, so imagine I'm on a back for a minute, just so that makes it easier for you to see this. So I'm going to demonstrate this both from seated and on my back. So I'm going to grab each elbow with my other hand, and literally you're going to be shifting arms this way, back to the middle, and this way. Now, having the floor underneath you is going to allow one shoulder to stay on the ground and the other shoulder will lift. So that's going to be the initial one. We're going to do that a few times. The next time we're going to do a half moon slung. We're going to come down this way and that way. And then the third version, after a while, we're going to try full circles and see how that feels, one direction and the other. And then we'll move from there. I think once you understand those things, I think you're going to be fine. Okay, so cross the arms, allow your hands to gently grab the elbows, shift toward the right, which means your left shoulder has come off the ground a little bit, and back to the center slowly. You're still moving through mud. Shift toward the left and back to the center. So already notice if one side of your body is more comfortable shifting than the other. Now, in between, go ahead and lay your shoulders on the ground. Maybe shrug a shoulder up toward the ear, to the right ear. Shrug the shoulder down, put the head back in the center. So the head never leaves the ground, and either does the shoulder. Shrug the left shoulder up toward the ear. Gently drop the head toward that shoulder. Release the shoulder and head to center. Let's do that one more time. Okay, we're now going to do the slung version of this. If you remember how your arms were crossed, try, if you can, maybe to do a different one. I kind of remember. And then go to the opposite side first. And then do a little bit of a slung moon. And then slung moon the other way. Again, these slow, subtle movements seem so simple, yet they are profoundly effective for chronic tension in area, for releasing. Okay, now let's go ahead and see if we can go full circle. Make it small. If your shoulders don't allow you to do that, don't do the version I'm showing. Go back to an earlier version. Find the one that works for you. Now, maybe change which hand is on top, and let's maybe try circling the other direction, see how that feels. Use your breath, move slowly. Okay, so we're going to add the windshield wiper legs into this little sequence. So allow your arms to go back up where they were to the initial position. Very slowly drop your legs off to the right and let your arms shift a little to the left. Initially, allow your head to go with it. And come back to the center. Now drop your legs off to the left. Shift your arms slightly to the right. Let your head go off to the right. And back to center. Give your arms a rest a little bit. Let them lay on the ground. Breathe. You might completely stretch out initially and see how that's feeling. See how your body is feeling. So now we're going to have the head just go the opposite way. So let's go back into the windshield wiper position. Cross your arms again. So when your legs are going to the right and your arms to the left, allow your head to gently go toward the legs. And back to center. When your legs are going left and the arms are shifting to the right, allow your head to look toward the legs. And back to center. Go ahead and release again. Just notice how you're feeling. Now we're going to do this whole thing with eagle arms, or you're giving yourself a bear hug. So take your arms straight up to the sky. If you can do an eagle arm, you're going to put your right arm under your left and then do the eagle arm. If not, you're just bear hugging, okay? And then bend the knees back up. Just shift the arms a little bit toward the right. Let the legs gently go to the left. And they're not going to go very far, right? Come back to center. Uncross the arms. So you can do this with the bear arms too. Now my right arm is on top and I'm shifting the arms toward the right a little, no, toward the left, sorry. And letting my legs go a little bit, and they're not going to go very far. It's not like you normally can in this position, you can let it go down. It's just a little bit of a twist. We are really unwinding the center of our body. Go ahead and release that whole thing. Allow your arms to go into any comfortable position. Mine felt like they wanted to go lay on over my head with these shoulders open. But if you like this with your arms down, just find any comfortable position. That was a lot of twisting action and shoulder action, middle of the body action, rib cage action. It's like a tourniquet where you squeeze and then we're letting it go, it's just going to let blood flow and everything is just going to flow so much better in these areas. Slow movements that are incredibly effective. All right, so take your time. We're going to move over, lay on our side, gently come up to seated for a mudra practice. You can go wherever you want to go. If you want to sit in a chair, but take your time finding your way into a seated posture to allow us to do our mudra. Woo. Okay. Let's sit for a moment and check in. I know my chest area and my shoulders are like very overworked at this moment just because I've done this 3 days in a row. I did it Sunday with the class. I did it yesterday with a private client, and now today. See if your chest feels a little more open. Hmm. So I think I'll do a mudra practice for our respiratory system since we've been opening so much, and winter is a time where we need this. So let's find respiratory. Let's do the Durga Svara. That way we're continuing this effort to open up our lungs. Number 85. Okay, it's about expanded breath for expanding our life force. That's a good one to do today. The only problem with this one is some people have a little trouble with the finger position, but I'll demonstrate it. And you can always visualize your hands in this position if it does not work. Okay. So you're going to hold the hands facing each other in front of the chest. The fingers are pointed upward. And then you're just going to bend the middle finger down, and the nails of the middle finger are touching each other. So the rest of the fingers are sticking up. So you're just turning down the middle finger and touching the nail bed of the middle finger toward each other. So just go ahead and see what this does for your breath already. So Durga actually means lengthen, and Svara means breath. So the Durga Svara Mudra expands your entire rib cage, increasing your breath capacity, while enhancing all 4 phases of breathing: the inhale, a natural pause, the exhale, and a natural rest. The rhythmic movement of the rib cage, facilitated by the gesture, helps to release the chronic contractions of the muscles of respiration. Durga Svara Mudra is energizing. It cultivates enthusiasm and vitality. And as it expands the life force energy, it supports us in channeling it into all areas of our body, supporting optimal health and healing, while creating a sense of spaciousness. So we're expanding life force energy today. As you hold the Durga Svara Mudra, take several natural breaths to attune to all the feelings and the sensations awakened by the gesture. Notice how your breath is flowing smoothly through your chest, the side ribs, and the upper back. See if you can sense it as a wave-like breathing. As you attune more deeply to the wave-like breathing, take several breaths to deepen your awareness of the 4 phases of breath. The inhale, the pause, the exhale, and the suspension. So as you're doing this cycle of breathing, notice how the inhale awakens you to the presence of prana, your life force energy. Now focus your attention on the natural pause at the end of the inhale. Do the next few breaths to do that. Now turn your attention to the exhale. See if you can embody a sense of release as all tension is allowed to move down and out of your body on each exhale. Finally, sense the pause at the end of the exhale, in which your breath is naturally suspended. This allows you to rest in the peace that comes from a complete release. For the next few breaths, see if you can notice all 4 phases of your breathing. Keep it rhythmic and smooth. As you attune more deeply to this breath, you might be experiencing an expansion of your vital energy. So now we're going to direct that vital energy to parts of your body for healing. Sense the life force cultivated within your breathing as light green energy. Inhale the light green energy, expand your lungs completely, and in the exhale, direct the life force into your pelvis, your legs, and your feet. Take several breaths to sense these areas expanding and releasing energetically in synchrony with your wave-like breathing. Now inhale the light green vital energy, expanding your lungs completely. And as you exhale, direct the life force into your abdomen, your solar plexus, the low and the mid back. Take several breaths to sense these areas expanding and releasing energetically in synchrony with your wave-like breathing. Next, inhale the light green vital energy, expanding your lungs completely. And as you exhale, direct this life force into the chest, the upper back, the shoulders, arms, and hands. Take several breaths to sense these areas expanding and releasing energetically in synchrony with your wave-like breathing. During the next series of breaths, inhale that light green vital energy, expand your lungs completely, and then exhale, directing the life force into the neck, and the head. You're nourishing your brain and senses with clarity and vitality. Allow your facial expression to reflect a growing serenity. Take several breaths to sense these areas expanding and releasing energetically in synchrony with your wave-like breathing. Finally, sense your entire body expanding and relaxing energetically with your wave-like breathing, allowing the prana to vitalize your entire being. Repeat the following 3 times, silently or out loud. Deeply attuned to my breathing, the life force energy vitalizes my entire body. Deeply attuned to my breathing, the life force energy vitalizes my entire body and being. Deeply attuned to my breathing, the life force energy vitalizes my entire body and being. Go ahead and release the hand gesture, move your fingers around gently. And then you can either lie down in your Shavasana, or if you don't feel like lying back down, you could stay seated or go into a child's pose, whichever pose you want to do our final rest in. If you need any movement in between, go ahead and respect what your body is asking. I know I need to kind of wiggle my shoulders a little bit. Move my head. So check in. Just notice anything that might feel differently than it did at the beginning of class. Okay. This one is called Healing Ourselves from Mark Nepo. In this world, hate never yet dispelled hate. Only love dispels hate. This is the law, ancient and inexhaustible. Buddha said that. One of the most difficult things about healing from being hurt by others is how to put wounds to rest when those who have hurt us will not give air to the wound, will not admit to their part in causing the pain. I have struggled with this deeply. Time and again, I find myself confusing the want for justice with the need for a witness of my wounds. Physical wounds are hard to miss, but emotional wounds are seldom visible. This is why they must be looked at and acknowledged if we are ever to heal. Yet so often our pain is compounded by the very human fact that we may never agree on the nature of what happened. If we do, we may never admit it to each other. Or the amends we feel we so deserve may go with the hurtful one to the grave. As with so many other crucial negotiations of life, what's required is to honor what lives within us. We must bear witness to ourselves, for there is no power as embracing or forgiving as the authority of that portion of God that lives in each of us. So in the last minute, either lie or sit quietly until you feel safe, and bring into view a wound that has not healed. Breathe steadily. Look directly at the wound. Bear witness to yourself and all that you've been through. And breathe fully, and let your compassion for yourself be the air to cleanse the wound. So this signals the end of our time together. If you're not already in seated, be very gentle with yourself as you make your way to seated. Gather any parts of today's practice that were particularly healing for you. Draw hands together at heart center in Namaste prayer position. Acknowledge each other on our own personal healing journey. And when we get to practice together, a collective healing journey. Namaste. I did go long because we started late, but I wanted to make sure that we got the full